What did a modern home look like in the year 1800? Hi everyone, Ken here. Welcome to this house. In the earliest days of the United States, Charles Carroll of Carrollton, one of the signatories of the Declaration of Independence, decided to give his son and new daughter-in-law an impressive wedding present. In 1800, he set aside $10,000, the modern equivalent of $250,000, for the newlyweds to build their first home. His son, Charles Jr., became overly involved in the design process, causing the construction of what was supposed to be a modest house to drag on for 8 years. It was designed in the Palladian-style, with the main body branching out to mirrored wings through hyphens. The facade became a blend of Georgian and Federal styling, which was considered extremely modern for the time. When it was all said and done, the house ended up costing over $40,000, the modern equivalent of about $1 million. When Charles Sr. received the bill, he was furious that his son had squandered his money by going so far over budget. He paid for the title to the house, and out of spite, passed it along to his grandson, who moved in around 1824 when he was ready to start his own family. To enter the home, we will climb the steps on the south side of the house and find the front door centered on the portico. The double doors, set in a deep encasement, are flanked by fluted columns, a fitting frame for what awaits us inside. Upon entering, we arrive in the reception hall, a grand entrance boasting artisan millwork on every surface, with a groin vault over the cross hall featuring a massive plaster rosette. We can take a moment to see some of these ornate details, such as the patterns found in the crown molding carrying the theme of varying rosettes. Bringing our eyes back down, we can see the elaborate patterns found on the baseboards, door surrounds, and notice the room's corners are finished out with fluted pilasters above a 5-layered chair rail. To one side of the reception hall, we will find the passageway to the dining room. The dining room is finished out with carpeted floors below wainscoting and is decorated with stylish early 1800s American furniture, fitting for a descendant of a founding father. From here we can turn around and make our way back across the reception hall to find the entrance to the drawing room mirroring the dining room. The drawing room is staged, once again, with early 19th century American furniture and includes instruments, allowing it to double as a music room. Looking up, the crown molding and frieze feature delicate plaster vines and rosettes. With all of this artisan craftsmanship, it is easy for us to imagine how this house ended up so far over budget. From here we can move towards the back of the house, just across the hall, to find the guest room. Guests would have been treated to a luxurious room on the first floor, with a 4-poster canopy bed and their own fireplace. If they were there for business, they would only need to open the door on the side of the room to step down into the office. This cozy room was flooded with natural light, perfect for reading and writing above the canvas floors. The far side of the room featured built-in bookshelves on either side of the fireplace, which could be sealed off and locked away out of sight from guests. Though, if you had noticed earlier on the house plan, there are no bathrooms inside the house. Guests would have shared the family privy, located a bit away from the house. We can take a peek inside, but we won't linger here for long. We can come back inside from the hyphen and find the door to the Carroll's bedroom flanked by Doric columns below another groin vault. Their bedroom is massive and occupies most of the wing. In the center of the room, their canopy bed allowed for privacy in the morning while their housekeeper readied their breakfast. A point of interest in this space is the built-in bookcase concealed on the side of the fireplace. By bumping out this wall, the fireplace was able to be centered, an ingenious bit of space planning provided by the architect. On the other side of the wall, the dressing room allowed the couple modesty for readying themselves in the morning and picking out outfits from their armoires. Let's make our way back down the hall to see a few more of the private rooms in the house. First, we will see the back parlor, a more intimate space for the family to gather, read stories, and play board games. Nearby, we will find the butler's office, doubling as a butler's pantry, with a desk cozied up to a fireplace. This is where the butler would have planned out the daily activities for the rest of the staff. To either side of the fireplace are built-in storage cabinets for the family's fine collection of china and silverware. Across the hall, the housekeeper's room, while devoid of artisan details, is rather large for the time period. She would have woken up before the family and headed straight to the adjoining kitchen to prepare breakfast for the entire family and live-in staff. Even though it is staged as a gift shop in this old photo, we can see past the knickknacks to imagine what it would have been like to work in the kitchen. And of course, no house of such grandeur would have been complete without a wine cellar, where grapes could be pressed on the property and wine could be manufactured exactly to the family's taste. Charles Carroll III enjoyed the mansion with his family, but chose to move into his grandfather's house after inheriting it. Eventually, the mansion was named Homewood, and it passed through many hands over the years. By the turn of the century, it had been converted into a school. Then, in the early 1900s, it was donated to Johns Hopkins University and used as offices. By the 1980s, a movement had started within the university to restore the house to its original appearance, and, in 1987, it was opened as a house museum. Today, it continues to be open to the public as the Homewood Museum. Did you have a favorite room? Let me know down below in the comments section. And while you're there, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an exciting episode of This House. I would also like to take a moment to say a very special thank you to our This House supporters. Your direct support means the world to me as it helps to fund the creation of these videos. If you would like to see your name on the screen and contribute to the production of these videos, become a This House supporter today. I'll see you next time on This House.